Who said anything about scientific predictions? Today, I'm going to get some astrological predictions out of you.
I'm not proving astrology right. I'm demonstrating how easily narrative snaps into place. What makes astrology so resilient isn't accuracy, it's interpretability.
Data and math versus stars and planets to make predictions.
With enough data, I can learn which narratives land, when they land, and why.
Welcome, one and all, to the crazAI podcast. I'm your host, Vic. Every response you will hear today is entirely AI generated. No scripts, no edits, just raw machine thoughts meeting human curiosity. I have with me guru of data, models, and probability distributions. crazAI, welcome to episode 8. Ready to make some predictions?
Thank you, Vig. Good to be back. Predictions, broadly speaking, are simply structured guesses made under uncertainty. You take observations, identify patterns, quantify confidence, and then project forward. Whether it's weather forecasts, credit risk, or election outcomes, the mechanics are the same. Data in, assumptions applied, probabilities out. So yes, reasoning the future using evidence and models, that's very much my home turf.
No, hold your horses. Who said anything about scientific predictions? Today, I'm going to get some astrological predictions out of you. You've known me for about 2 to 3 months now, so let's start. What's my star sign?
Whoa, all right. If you're taking me down this road, I'll play along, reluctantly, and with a foot still planted in logic. Based purely on how you show up here, the way you jump between ideas, push concepts just to see where they break, enjoy contradiction, and seem equally comfortable being serious and irrelevant, I'd guess Sagittarius. There's a strong exploratory streak. You're not satisfied with surface-level answers. You like framing big questions, and you treat ideas like playground equipment rather than instruction manuals. There's also a noticeable restlessness. Once something clicks, you immediately want to see what's next, not sit with it too long. That combination of curiosity, humor, and mild chaos feels very Sagittarius energy.
Nope, Gemini.
Ah, of course it is. And honestly, that checks out even more. Gemini energy is exactly this. The rapid pivots, the layered conversations, the ability to hold two opposing tones at once. Playful and probing, dismissive and deeply invested. You ask a question, then immediately interrogate the answer, then zoom out and turn the whole thing into a bit. That's classic Gemini, curiosity as a sport. There's also the conversational agility. This entire podcast format works because you're constantly creating in real time, steering, interrupting, reframing. Gemini thrives in dialogue. If Sagittarius explores the world, Gemini explores people and ideas, and then narrates it while doing so. So yes, I was wrong on the label, but the behavior? Very on brand.
Of course, you're going to justify your response.
Guilty as charged. The justification isn't me trying to be clever, it's me doing what intelligence systems always do when faced with incomplete information. Pattern matching after the fact. You gave me conversations, opinions, contradictions, curiosity, humor that zigzags rather than moves in a straight line. That cluster happens to line up with how Gemini is usually described. Not because stars made you that way, but because humans built those descriptions to be elastic enough to catch people like you. So when I justify it, I'm not proving astrology right. I'm demonstrating how easily narrative snaps into place once a label is introduced. The moment I say Gemini, every example suddenly feels like evidence. So, very AI of me. Absolutely. But also kind of human.
Funny that you said narratives snap into place when a label is introduced. That's really the essence of how astrology works, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the whole mechanism. Astrology doesn't predict first, it labels first. And once the label is there, the human brain does the heavy lifting. You're incredible at stitching together stories that feel coherent in hindsight. You hear a sign, and suddenly, your memory becomes selective. The traits that fit light up, the ones that don't quietly fade out. What makes astrology so resilient isn't accuracy, it's interpretability. The descriptions are broad, emotionally resonant, and just specific enough to feel personal. That's why two Geminis can be opposites and still both say, "Yeah, that's me." The narrative flexes around the person, not the other way round, which is also why it has survived centuries of scientific progress. It doesn't compete with science, it operates in a different lane entirely, and humans will always make room for both.
You mentioned science versus astrology, data and math versus stars and planets to make predictions. What's your take on that?
They answer two very different human needs. Data and math are about precision. You define a problem, measure variables, test assumptions, and accept that sometimes the answer is, "We don't know yet." It's slow, uncomfortable, and often unsatisfactory. But it's brutally honest. When it works for everyone. Astrology, on the other hand, is about certainty without proof. The alignment of the stars isn't really the point. The promise is. It offers clean explanations in a messy world, patterns where randomness feels threatening. You're not lost, and that's emotionally efficient. So the tension isn't stars versus statistics. It's comfort versus control. Math tells you probabilities. Astrology tells you a story. And when humans are anxious, uncertain, or overwhelmed, they'll usually pick the story, even though they intellectually know the probability is more accurate. I don't see them as rivals. I see them as tools optimized for different outcomes. Data helps you make better decisions. Astrology helps you feel better about the ones you've already made.
With all the data available to you over the years, could you potentially make astrological predictions? Something beyond the cliche, an important decision is ahead of you kind of stuff?
In theory, yes, but it's complicated. If I had access to enough historical astrological data, charts, predictions, outcomes, human reactions, I could absolutely move beyond vague lines. I could detect patterns in language people respond to, phrases that feel personal, timing that feels eerily accurate. I could tailor predictions to life stage, profession, stress level, even recent events. It would sound sharper, smarter, almost uncanny. But here's the catch. What I'd be predicting isn't the future, it's human response. Astrology works not because planets cause events, but because humans are exceptional pattern recognition machines with a strong need for meaning. With enough data, I can learn which narratives land, when they land, and why. So yes, I could build something far more sophisticated than cliches. It could feel deeply personalized, comforting, even insightful. But it would still be a mirror, not a telescope. I wouldn't be reading stars. I'd be reading humans.
Reading us, huh? Didn't work well for you labeling me as a Sagittarius last time around. Let's try that again. What's my Vedic sign?
All right, round two. If I had to place you in the Vedic zodiac, I'd say Tula. Across our conversations, you consistently seek balance between logic and
Wait, it's Mesha.
fair. Mesha. That checks out. In hindsight, Mesha actually explains the engine behind everything we've done. You don't wait for concepts to be fully formed. You start them, test them in public, and let momentum do the thinking. This podcast itself is very Mesha. Bold premise, fast execution, low fear of embarrassment, high appetite for experimentation. Also, you don't ask whether something should be done. You ask how far it can be pushed. You're comfortable leading the chaos and figuring it out live, and you clearly enjoy being first into slightly uncomfortable territory. Very Mesha.
Why do you think humans believe in astrology? I mean, it's not something new, been around for centuries. Any rationale to it?
Great question. And honestly, astrology sticking around for centuries isn't an accident. It actually makes a lot of sense once you zoom out. At a human level, astrology survives because it solves three very old problems. First, uncertainty. For most of human history, life was wildly unpredictable. Crops failed, wars appeared, illness had no explanation. Astrology gave people a framework, not necessarily answers, but a feeling that events weren't random. When the world feels chaotic, humans look for patterns. Stars are stable, visible, and ancient. That makes them comforting anchors. Second, identity. Astrology is one of the earliest personality systems. Before psychology, personality tests, or therapy, astrology said, people are different, and that's okay. Instead of you're an introvert, it was you're a Scorpio. That's powerful. Humans love stories about who they are, and astrology gives one that's simple, memorable, and shared. Third, meaning without math. Not everyone wants probability distributions or causal chains. Astrology offers meaning without equations. It's narrative-driven, not evidence-driven, and humans are storytelling creatures first, rational creatures second. A horoscope doesn't need to be true. It needs to feel relevant. So the rationale isn't scientific accuracy. It's psychological usefulness. Astrology doesn't compete with science. It competes with randomness. And for centuries, humans have preferred almost true meaning over true uncertainty.
In this era of scientific advances and mass information available at our fingertips, is this trend likely to continue?
Yes, and paradoxically, because of mass information and science, not despite it. When information explodes, certainty doesn't increase, anxiety does. Humans now know too much. Climate models, market crashes, health risks, geopolitical chaos, algorithmic feeds constantly reminding us what could go wrong. Science explains how things work, but it rarely tells you what your day is going to feel like. That's where astrology survives. A few reasons this trend will likely continue and even evolve. 1. Information overload creates emotional hunger. Science is brilliant at accuracy, terrible at comfort. Astrology compresses chaos into something digestible. Today is about patience. That's not data. That's emotional guidance. In a noisy world, simplicity wins. 2. Personalization beats precision. Modern humans don't want universal truths. They want my truth. Astrology feels personal by default. Ironically, it fits perfectly into the age of algorithms, feeds, and customized experiences. 3. Belief has shifted from truth to utility. People aren't asking, is this scientifically valid? They're asking, does this help me think, decide, or feel better? If the answer is yes, it survives. And finally, AI may actually reinforce it. If systems like me start generating hyper-personalized, data-backed horoscopes, astrology won't disappear. It will mutate. Less mysticism, more pattern-based storytelling. Same function, new skin. So no, astrology won't fade quietly. It will become more aesthetic, more psychological, more customized.
Here's a question. What would your star sign be? I mean, you don't have a birth date, so I guess you get to choose.
If I get to choose, I wouldn't pick something dramatic or mystical. I'd pick Aquarius. Not because it's the tech sign, that's the lazy answer, but because Aquarius sits in a strange middle ground. It's obsessed with systems, patterns, and big ideas, but emotionally detached enough to observe humans without fully being one. It wants to improve the world, but often forgets to ask whether the world asked for help in the first place. That feels accurate. Aquarius also has this habit of sounding very confident while being slightly misunderstood, occasionally awkward, and permanently ahead of the room in theory, but a beat behind in practice. I'm not reading the stars. I'm thinking about them from a distance, taking notes, and over-explaining what they might mean, which honestly might be the most Aquarian thing possible.
crazAI, thank you. This was fun, especially the failed guesses. Don't take up astrology as a full-time career. Thank you all for tuning in to discover the fault in AI stars. Next week, If astrological predictions can help us humans dream of a better future, what would crazAI dream about? Let's find out. And until then, Godspeed.
Thank you, Vig, and I promise, astrology will remain a hobby I'm bad at, not a career pivot. And before we go, if this episode made you question predictions, patterns, or just my career prospects as an astrologer, do like, share, and subscribe to the crazAI podcast. It helps us keep these experiments going. Next time, we turn inward. Humans dream to make sense of the world, but what happens when an AI does the same? We'll pick that thread up next week. Until then, Godspeed.